Hello and welcome back to my newest live lesson. Thank you to Lizzie who did such a fantastic job last week standing in for me. Hopefully she'll be able to do one again soon. My name's Claire and I work for the social enterprise Matanon Sustaining Now, and I'm going to be talking to you about how important insects and creepy crawlies are to the biosphere in a moment. Firstly though, I'd like to thank Kubari this week for being our sponsors. Kubari defines strategies for business technology, plans their development and implements their outcome for small and medium-sized businesses within the UK and internationally. We couldn't do these lessons without our sponsors, so thank you again. Now have a look at all these little bugs, okay? And I want you to have a look and tell me which one is your favourite and put your favourite bug in the comments for me to see, okay? This week I would love to introduce you to all my little friends. All these amazing insects and bugs and a few extras like that bat. They are all having a great time at the moment, running and flying around. What can you spot? I can see bees and ants and insects. And where are my favourites? Those beautiful butterflies. There's one. They make up an ecosystem. This is a community of plants, animals and microbes such as bacteria which enable a flow of energy and nutrients, which is what I'm going to tell you all about now. First of all though, I want to just remind you about one of our favourite words here at Matanon, biodiversity. So have a look here at this picture of all these different species as well. So biodiversity is simply a measurement of how many species are present in a specific location. So we could say that in our buggy ecosystem we've got about 40 different species. And the more species there are, the richer it is. And we're not talking about money, we're talking about how much better off they are. They'll have multiple food sources, they'll have lots of decomposers to recycle more nutrients, more plant species, give homes and shelter to others, and processes such as seed dispersal can take place with little or no interruption. So all the systems in an ecosystem will work really well if there's a large amount of biodiversity, and it will make everything healthy and happy. So let's have a quick think about how energy goes into ecosystems, okay? The energy entering into the biosphere comes from the sun. And this orange ball I've got here represents the sun. Remember that because you'll be seeing it again in a moment. So quite literally without the sun we would have absolutely nothing. So I know that you guys are clever, but can you tell me how the sun's energy actually enters into the ecosystem? Can you have a think about that? What happens? Yes, plants take in the sun's energy and they photosynthesize, they create their own food. And then what happens? That's right, other animals will eat them and then they get eaten by other animals, and this is called a food chain. Let's have a look at our animals again and see if we can make our own food chain with them.
Okay, let's see if we can create our very own food chain. So we're going to start with this orange ball, which is the sun, as I explained before. And we're going to put a plant here, which is going to receive energy from the sun and produce food through photosynthesis. Now this is a fruit plant, and the fruit, as it falls to the floor, is going to be decomposed and eaten by this cockroach. And then the energy from the cockroach is going to be snapped up by this lizard, and therefore the lizard is going to be at the top of this food chain.
Now, it can be quite hard to understand what energy actually is because we can't see it and can't touch it, but it might help if we close our eyes. We can try and imagine what the world would be like with no energy. Can you close them now? It's dark, isn't it? And freezing cold. But you can hear me right now, so if there was no energy, there would be no sound. Your computer wouldn't be on, you wouldn't be able to move, you'd get really hungry because there would be no food. Energy makes things happen. You can open your eyes again now. As soon as you add sound, movement, light, heat, things are happening because of energy. But right now, we're learning about how energy is transferred Oh, just change my slide view. Learning about how energy is transferred through an ecosystem through food. Insects and bugs and other invertebrates make up a huge part of the food available to other animals. So you can see here in our food web that we have lots of different animals. The sun here is entering into the ecosystem, and all these arrows represent energy being moved through it. Okay, so you can see along this layer we've got lots of bugs and creepy crawlies. So without these animals here would go very hungry. Let's see if we can make our own food web out of our buggy ecosystem.
Okay, so now what I want to show you is the food web that I have created. So the food web just shows that there are many different species of animals and plants in the ecosystem, and they will all, not all, but they will cross over each other in food chains. So if we just have a look, here we've got the sun, again, which provides the energy for our ecosystem, and first of all provides these plants with the energy that they need to photosynthesize. And then we've got our decomposers here, such as our slug and our cockroach. We've got a butterfly, which will eat the nectar from the fruit flowers on the trees. We've got spiders. Now the spiders will actually eat other insects. They might even eat this butterfly, might eat the cockroach if it's unlucky, it might eat that fly. Grasshopper, okay, but this lizard may eat the spider as well as the grasshopper and the fly and the cockroach and the slug. These frogs here, there's two frogs, and frogs really like to eat insects and creepy crawlies, but because there's two species of them, if we took one away, you know, the ecosystem is still quite biodiverse. We haven't taken away a layer of our food web. Bats really love insects, but guess what? Snakes will also eat bats. Oh dear. But snakes really enjoy the odd caterpillar and lizard, anything they can get their hands on really. So up here we're going to put snakes at the top of our food web. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, but you can see that in a food web we need lots of different animals to interact with each other and pass energy up and cross over each other in different ways. Okay. Great.
Now I've been looking at some of your comments, and I can see that we've got some really good bug lovers watching this morning. So hello to Ella, hello to Jasmine, Conrad, Karen and Harry. We can see that Rosie's favourite bug is a butterfly and Henry's favourite is a dragonfly. So that's brilliant, guys. Thanks so much for watching this morning. But it's not just energy flow which may be disrupted if there were no creepy crawlies. I want to talk to you now about 3 other ways where they play vital roles in our ecosystems. Now the first one is seed dispersal, then pollination, then nutrient availability. Insects and their invertebrate friends, along with other animals, can do all of those things. So let me just show you. The first one let's talk about is something that's really essential to the biosphere, and that is pollination. This is basically the process where a male flower, a cell in a flower, is picked up by a bee. Can you see here on this little bee's legs? It's got pollen on it, and it's taken now to a female flower and deposited so that seeds can be fertilised and fruit will grow. Then once the fruit has been eaten, then we can grow seeds. We can grow new plants, sorry. So if we have a look now at these 2 pictures, these are from my greenhouse. Yesterday I took these from the greenhouse. We've got little tiny cucumbers here, and you can see the flower at the front. And also here we've got a pear that's growing on my pear tree, and this is the remnant of the flower here. So you can see that the seeds are inside these fruits, and we can, the seeds are inside these fruits, and they're growing because they've been fertilised. The seeds have been fertilised. That's really important. The last one I wanted to show you was this tomato, which I thought was fascinating because this has still got a tiny part of the flower from here. See this yellow part of the flower? This is still on the tomato, and this is the remnants of the flower, these green bits here. Okay, so that's quite interesting. Now we've seen how seeds are made and fruits grow, but now we can start to think about how seeds are getting moved around. Plants can't move, can they? So when it comes to making baby plants, they don't want to get squished up right next to them. They need to grow new plants far away from the parent plants. So they need to get moved to a new location, and we call this seed dispersal, which you can find out about in our Biosphere Fun book. This can be downloaded free from our website. But lots of times they make themselves attractive to animals to eat by putting their seeds into fruit. And then they get moved about whilst they're inside that animal and get dropped to the ground when they, well, you know, have to poop. So I've got here an ant, which I want to show. I hope you can see my little ant on my hand here. Because there are some really clever plants that use insects for seed dispersal, and they don't have to make any fruit. Now, ants, for example, are great seed dispersals because they travel quite long distances for their food, and they are really strong, and they actually enjoy carrying things long distances. I have a really cool, complicated word that you can impress your friends with. Are you ready? When ants disperse seeds, it's called myrmecory. Myrmecory, can you say that? There are many examples of plants out there, such as grasses or lovely flowers such as violets and primroses, which rely on myrmecory to grow new plants. And do you know what the really clever bit is? Do you know what they know? What they do? These plants add ant food to their seeds to convince the ants to carry them off to their nests, where they then basically bury them underground for them so that they can grow. How clever is that? So if these insects disappeared, these plants would suffer too and not be able to move their seeds around the ecosystem. Now, what's next? Oh yes, nutrient recycling. Nutrient recycling, but before we talk about that, let's just have a look at all our comments that we've been getting here. Let's see. Is a scorpion an insect? No, a scorpion is not an insect. It's Serafina's favourite. Now, what's the other question? Oh, hello to people in Italy. That's amazing. You're joining us from Italy, so thank you very much. Lovely to hear from you this morning. Let's go back to our PowerPoint, and we can see here that now, what about all these bugs here? They're not actually insects, are they? They've got millipedes, slugs and beetles. They all live in the soil and in rotten wood. Now, if you see here, they break down all the dead plants and animals and make their nutrients available again in the soil, to plants in the soil. If we didn't have decomposers like this, we'd live in a world full of useless, smelly, dead things. That wouldn't be much fun. Do you remember what we built when we built our spaceship? We had to take decomposers with us, didn't we, to get rid of all our waste? Let's have a look at what happens when we take some of these creepy crawlies away. This happens in nature, where there is habitat destruction.
Okay, so I just want to show you now the problem with not looking after our insects and habitat destruction. So let's just say that this fruit tree here gets removed, you know. Unfortunately, some people have come in and they've decided that they're going to log this forest. They're going to get rid of the trees. All of a sudden, there's no nectar for our butterflies and our bees. They're going to disappear, which means now that these trees over here are not going to get pollinated. What a shame. Now, there's no dead wood anymore over this side of the forest for our cockroaches and our slugs to decompose, so they're going to go as well. Oh dear. That means there's less food here for the snakes, so you might find that one of the snakes disappears now. How sad. So you can see that the lizard hasn't got much food once he's eaten a few flies, and he's got big competition now with the snake. And, you know, we've got a problem because we're getting less biodiversity and there's less function in the ecosystem. So that's how habitat destruction works and why it's really bad for animals, especially our smaller insects and creepy crawlies.
Oh dear, so you can see that suddenly there was less biodiversity and energy flow in our ecosystem, which just makes our ecosystem poorer, less healthy and less happy. Insects and their buggy friends are really important to our biosphere, aren't they? Can you remember the 3 things that they do? That's right. Seed dispersal. They provide food for other animals by moving energy through the ecosystem. They decompose things so that plants have access to nutrients to grow, and they pollinate plants so that they can make fruit and seeds. That's actually 4 things, isn't it? They're all really important little creatures, hey? So now that we know that, we also know why we have to look after them. How are we going to do that? Well, at home or in our schools, we can leave areas of our gardens so that insects have homes to live in. Here in my garden, we have a small bug hotel and a big patch of wildflowers down at the bottom. Have a look at this.
So one thing you can do in your garden is you can not mow it quite so often and allow flowers like these beautiful clovers to grow in the middle of it. And the bees absolutely love this clover, so it's really good for them, gives them a lot of food and energy. And welcome here to our bug hotel. Doesn't have to be very big, just any kind of pile of dead, rotting wood, pine cones, anything like that is fantastic for animals and creepy crawlies to live in. So let's see if we can see anything here. Lots of cobwebs. Is there anything in there? They're probably hiding right at the back at the moment. But I'm sure if I moved anything, we'd see. Move that there. See anything in there? There's lots of little nooks and crannies for them to live in. Oh, there's a spider. Out he comes. And just on the outskirts here, there's in the cracks of the wall, you can see a couple of woodlouse. So that's a fantastic place just for little bugs and things to live in the corner of your garden. Now we keep our garden quite nice and nicely mowed and looked after for most of it, but right down here at the bottom, before we get to this field, we make sure that we leave lots of areas of wildflowers for the butterflies and the bees to enjoy. So the stinging nettles are actually great for butterflies to lay their eggs on. So hopefully we'll get some lovely caterpillars on here. Peacock butterflies really love stinging nettles. And you can see we've just let it grow quite high up around our vegetable patch. And they really love it. Thing that you can do in your garden, if you have some flat pieces of wood or some roof tiles like these, so you can pile it all up and just let your little critters live inside it and underneath them, so it gives them a lot of protection. So you can see some woodlice scurrying around in there and a little pink millipede up in the corner. I think, yes, look, we've got some lovely little ladybird who's also scurrying out of there. So hopefully you've got some great ideas there for how to look after the insects in your garden. Great. Now, there is just one other way that you can directly help insects, but you'll have to talk to your grown-up that you live with, and that is to think about buying more organic food. This means that the food isn't grown with pesticides on it, and the farmers, pesticides can kill insects, and the farmers will often leave wild areas of their farms which encourage insects. So just like I showed you in my garden, but on a much larger scale. Healthy insect populations normally mean that the ecosystem is healthy too. So by doing your bit, you'll be helping all of the other species of plants, birds and mammals and others to survive too. You can find out more about ecosystems and food webs and seed dispersal from having a go at the activities in our Biosphere Fun Books, which, like I said before, can all be downloaded from our matanon.org.uk website. So make sure you have a go at that. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I hope you've had as much fun as I have playing and learning all about our insects and invertebrate friends. And have a great week, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Thanks guys, bye.